Hello,
Hi.
everyone. Welcome to another Meet the Coach. My name is Erwin de Graaf. I'm here together with Steve Jeffs of the Coaching Tools Company. And today we do have the pleasure to have a conversation chat with Chitra. Hello, Chitra and Steve.
Thanks, Arvind. Thanks, Steve. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to be here today. It's nice to meet you both.
You're welcome. We're excited to see you. You're already on the website, or will be soon, around Meet the Coach. We've had a chance to look at that. I've been looking at your website this afternoon and really excited to learn more about you, your work, and your passion for this work. But to help our audience, give us a brief introduction to you as a person as well as you as a coach.
So, me as a coach, I am a qualified medical doctor. I'm practicing in the NHS in the United Kingdom for the last 30 years. So, I'm a general practitioner for nearly 20 years now. And I flourished. I love medicine. I love seeing patients. I love treating patients. But obviously, during the time of the COVID, things went a little bit haywire. So we were all overwhelmed. As you know, the whole world was overwhelmed, but more so the healthcare professionals. So I just sort of went downhill a little bit, lost my positivity, lost my passion, lost my energy, and almost was burnt out. So it took me a while to recognize that I was burnt out. So once I started to recognize, I got brilliant coaching. That completely changed my life. And when I got out of my burnt out and started looking around, I realized that I was not the only one. There are so many people in the healthcare who needed support and help. We were all so committed, so stoic. We just carry on going, doing the work. But sometimes we forget ourselves. We forget to ask for help. That's when I started my coaching. I started my Lifeline Academy. So my mission is to support the professionals and develop them into the leaders and help them reconnect with their passion and their purpose. Because that's the most important thing, because you don't become a professional, especially in the healthcare, without a passion and the purpose. And sometimes you just forgot where you started and what started you off. So that's where I come in with my coaching to help them find their passion purpose back again.
So you work with everyone or every role within the health industry, or are you just working with doctors or nurses, or what is your really with the people that you do coaching with?
I mean, at the moment, mostly I'm working with the doctors and the nurses and the clinicians. But the way I see it is that anyone who is willing to change, who wants a change, who needs connecting with their energy, that is the people is my people. I want to help them to get back where they want to be.
I love that.
Yeah, I was before talking to Steve a little bit, and I said COVID was an enormously intense period, and certainly for those health professionals, because it was really enormously hard work. So, and you just said you passed through it as well. How were you able to manage that, and how does that you during that, and then the coaching, what are the things that you're taking with you that when you're sitting together with a health professional to help them in your coaching with them?
Sorry, Evan, go again.
No, maybe the question was too long. So,
It's a bit
with
of
the basis
loaded.
on your experience, what happened in COVID, that you went through that process, and then you went through coaching. What are what is how are you helping coach health professionals with that experience when they go through losing their passion, stress at the hospital or wherever they are? What are the things that where you can help and what you're doing? with them to help.
So where we are at the moment is that the NHS hasn't completely recovered from the COVID fallout.
Oh.
We still have a huge waiting list. There are still so many catch-up work to do. So what has happened is that obviously there are so much bureaucracy and things as well. So the workload is significantly high. So people are turning up to the work and they are doing the work and they are doing a brilliant job. But what is missing is that enjoyment, what we get from the work, that energy we get from the work. So I just see people coming to the work, doing the brilliant job, but not enjoying it. And I just feel that that is not right. You have to be able to enjoy the work you do, especially when you're in the healthcare or whichever profession it is. You have to enjoy the work, and especially when you do so much good to the world. And the other thing I see is that the lack of energy, and they are just so exhausted. They're not able to enjoy their life. And yes, of course, we are not going to change the NHS. We are not going to change the system overnight. But what we can do is that I help them find little packets of energy to help them reconnect with themselves. There are so many little things we can do on a day-to-day life. And it's just that finding what will work for you, what will work for this person, or what will work for that person to help them get their energy back, to start enjoying the life, to start enjoying the job. Yes, it's easy to say you can give up the job or you can do, but we are not going to fix the system overnight.
I love that you said that. Actually, one thing that stood out from what you've just shared is that for a lot of us, COVID is that thing that happened way back then. I hear my kids are watching television and an old episode comes up and there's COVID and they go, oh, I remember when that was happening. But actually, one of the things that stood out for me is that for many people, the impact of what was happening continues even today. As you said, the NHS is catching up from all the stuff that it couldn't do. And so that shocked me a little. I'm not sure what that is, but I think it gives me a lot more clarity of some of the struggles that a lot of the professions, especially around health professions, are still dealing with that is actually invisible to a lot of the people around. What's the impact of people facing challenges that most of society isn't seeing as a challenge anymore?
The amount of the workload we all know we have to do to catch up, the waiting list, people lost to the follow-up, and we know what are the things that need to be done, and that gives that moral responsibility as well. But there are only 24 hours in a day, and there's only so much resources available. So, and it's just that moral fatigue, and to a certain extent, there is also expectation from the public of what the standard should be, which to a certain extent is fair, but it is not fair on the healthcare professionals to meet that expectations on their own. So there is a bit of a compassion fatigue as well.
Say a little bit more about that, compassion fatigue.
So there are days when as a general practitioner, I easily see about 35 to 40 patients in a day. And the most of them, 95% of them are all brilliant people. But if one or two people, when they take their anger out or when they take their frustration out on me as a general practitioner, it definitely does affect me. And it is the same way it affects any individual, any human being. And it's just that there are times people do feel, why do I have to listen to this? And obviously, when you're sitting in the role as a doctor or as a healthcare professional, it is not something that we are trained to do or express our feelings. And so it becomes unexpressed resentment, which takes a lot of energy of the healthcare professionals.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of layers to that. I love that phrase. So one of the things that is often true about helpers, those of us that like to help, that are going out of our way to help others, often it's difficult for us to ask for help. Is that something that you've seen?
Oh, yes. It is the commonest problem we have. We think that we can solve all the problems in the world and we don't need any help. And it's so, so common. Yeah.
So
And so
how,
that's why I'm banging out in the LinkedIn and in the social media. It's okay to ask for help.
well, that was what I was going to ask, is like, how do you deal with that? Because what you're doing feels so important. We've got medical professionals with decades of training and experience. And so the cost and the time to replace them is prohibitive.
Yeah.
It's not like we can just find someone else and plug it in. And so the risk or the cost, if people do lose their passion, if they do burn out and they go, I give up, I'm going to do something else, like that to me is a problem that's worth preventing. And that's how I'm hearing the work that you're doing. And so for helpers that don't like to ask for help, how do you connect with them and help make it safe for them to even consider this thing called coaching?
So one of the good things about the healthcare professional is learning is part of our curriculum. So we always learn. And that is one thing we consistently do. So there are a lot of opportunities to introduce self-care coaching as part of a learning curriculum, as professional development. It's not very easy, but it's just that raising the awareness. And I think, and I'm hopeful that tide is changing, that people are recognizing the toll it takes on themselves.
Mm.
One of the other problem is time. So to look after yourself, it needs time. And obviously, when you're so committed to the work and there is a life outside the work, it becomes difficult to invest in yourself. So that is an issue as well. And that's where I usually always say there are small steps we can all do in a day. 5 minutes of walk, 20 minutes of exercises, simple things we can do that can help us to reconnect.
So is that why you are, because looking on your website, that's why you're the captain of the boat or the cruise, and you're telling them small steps to do, little work to do. Is that correct?
Yes. So somehow I fell in love with the navigation theme. So I built everything around the navigation. So my aim is everyone should become captain of their life and career and to develop themselves. There is a significant amount of burnout in the healthcare. And according to the latest statistics, about 50% of healthcare professionals are at the risk of burnout or being burnt out. The depression, and there are even suicides, which are happening since COVID. The number of suicides have gone up as well. And that's when I came up with a grand title of Lifeline Academy.
Yeah, that's cool, because also, if you look at the healthcare industry and if people decide, like, I'm going to go somewhere else, it is a strain on the system.
It
Because
is.
and that is suddenly with this specific work, it influences the system as well. If it's like in other jobs, well, I find someone else and it doesn't matter. But it's like you need that specific trained people and knowledgeable people too. So it's really so important to support and help health professionals so that they can enjoy, because if they enjoy, the system becomes better, and at the end the patients will feel this at the end as well.
Yeah, exactly. Because happy doctors, happy patients, happy system as well. And the more the doctors leave, then we have less number of personnel to do the more work. So it's just a vicious cycle and we have to break it at some point.
Absolutely. So you're a trained doctor, you're trained as a coach, you're working in a place that, for many new coaches at least, can feel sometimes a little scary because this is a mental health space. You're talking about burnout. You mentioned suicide and some of these health things that certainly come from the stress and the burnout. How do you show up as a coach and make sure that you're coaching in that space?
So it is clearly distinguishing between a physical problem and a mental health problem. Mm-hmm. If someone has a severe mental health problem, if they are severely depressed, if they need help, my role as a coach is not going to help them. So it is when they are burnt out, when they need a support system, I can come in as a coach and a mentor. And to a certain degree, being a doctor helps in that way, where I can identify this is a pure mental health problem which needs a trained psychologist, psychotherapist, psychiatrist support, rather than me coming as a coach and a mentor.
Yeah, I love that.
So the Life Academy, what do you specifically do there?
So in the Lifeline Academy, it's mainly I provide at the moment one-to-one coaching. So I am developing a group coaching program because I feel that it might be easier and helpful for healthcare professionals or any professionals to work together as a group. And there is so much of energy and the peer support you can get when you're working in a group. But mainly at the moment, it is one-to-one support.
Well, that looks really interesting, and certainly in a group environment and do group coaching, because it's not only from you as a coach, but also each other being there in a group can support and help each other as well. You're just there to facilitate that.
Yeah.
I'm curious about the name, like Lifeline Academy. From your perspective, what do you mean by lifeline?
Because in 2022, there were a very high number of suicides. So, and especially it is not, it's a huge range of doctors and nurses went through, and there were so many high profile suicides in that, which personally it affected me. There were nearly a 55-year-old GP, 30-year-old trainee, 45-year-old anesthetist, huge age groups, couple of nurses. And when you read that personal story, it made an impression on me, and it just felt like that I had to do something about it. Call me name. So that's where I just felt that Lifeline suited me at that time. And so in the long term, it's to develop programs to develop and support the healthcare professionals or any professionals for the leadership development. And so it became Lifeline Academy.
That's cool. The reason I ask, I'm looking at your website, strong nautical theme. For those that want to have a look, we'll put the link below and we'll talk about it later, but really cool, lots of great images. And I'm looking at one particular image of a sailing boat, and the word lifeline shows up for me because often when you're on boats and when you're moving around things, especially during turbulent times, you need to have a line that connects you to the boat so you don't get pushed away. And from what you're speaking to, there's a lifeline so that we're not losing overboard the professionals that we need to keep. And actually for the professionals themselves, like if you're feeling washed around and knocked around and like you've lost that passion, it feels like a perfect name, a perfect metaphor actually. To be, all right, well, how do I reconnect myself to that core, that authenticity, that thing that's important to reignite that flame of passion?
Yeah. And that's why one of the core program we do is that how to identify the anchors that help us to stay moved, because anchors are really, really important. It can be people, it can be things you do, it can be any books, whatever you do, but we all need anchors to keep us moved.
Absolutely. And I see you've got an acronym or initials of CRUISE.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about CRUISE and that methodology?
So CRUISE is the methodology I usually use with one-to-one. So the first one is to identify where you want to be. So it is creating and seeing where you want to go. That is creating your navigational plan. And the second is reviewing where you are at the moment. So it's taking stock of what things are happening. And the third thing is that it is power boat, identifying what are the energies, what are the resources you need to do that. And the I is for identifying anchor. And once you know where you want to go, where you are, and once you know what you have to top up to keep your power boat running and getting all your anchors in place, you set sail and go into the leadership.
So are you a real captain on a boat, or because I've seen you with the hat? No, you're not a sailor, no.
No, I'm not a real sailor.
You're a coach sailor. Okay, good.
Coach sailor, yeah. I like hot weather. I don't cope very well with being on the sea.
Oh, that's brilliant. Well, that's really exciting. As you look towards 2025, like what excites you about coaching and the work that you do with your clients?
So my vision is that at least in this year, I want to help 100 people to change their lives and to feel that they are in control of their life. They are happy in their career. So that's the goal for my 2025.
100 people.
Is the 100 people one-to-one, or do you include a group coaching?
Yeah, I'm in group coaching, yes.
Yeah,
One-to-one is going to be really hard work.
So how do you combine your work as a general practitioner and being a coach, certainly on a time-wise? How do you organize yourself?
So I have got allocated time for doing the coaching. So I'm part-time general practitioner. So I work in the practice only 3 days a week.
Okay.
And I have 2 to 3 days in doing that. And when I say 100 people, you don't need to have one-to-one coaching in 100 people, because if you make a difference in one patient's life, you could count it as one. So you can make a difference wherever you are.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Absolutely. I'm kind of curious. So often we talk about, certainly in the work I'm doing with organizations, I talk about coach-like leadership. I've certainly trained a lot of coaching courses and content inside organizations. And I'm curious, for you as a professional, as a GP, as a doctor, how has your coaching helped that role?
So coaching helped me to become very, very self-aware, and definitely helped me to understand where people are coming from in different places. And so that helps me to even say, for example, when we talked about the compassion fatigue, I can, because of that self-awareness and having had the coaching, I can put myself in that place and say, okay, that patient is frustrated because of X, Y, Z. And when you're able to have that self-awareness and understanding, you don't get that upset or angry. You can have the right frame of mind to deal with that. So that's how it helps me in the day-to-day life, and it can be transferred into every single thing, isn't it?
Do you use tools in your coaching?
I do. I borrow a lot of tools from your website.
Yeah, but which one are you like so important tools that you use, and what is the benefit that you see using that one or two top tools that you use?
I mean, my two favorite is that always I start with the wheel of life when I first meet the client, because that gives a broad picture to help the client to get into, find out where they are at the moment. But it also, then we can decide where we want to focus on. So you can narrow it down. Okay, this is the area we need to work on. So it's a really good tool to look at broad picture and bring focus in. So that is one favorite tool. And if it is short of time, Grow tool is something which you can adopt it very quickly and make quick changes and things as well.
Hmm.
So those are the two things that comes to my mind. And then rest of the things I usually, depending on the circumstances and the client. Timeline is another one which is my favorite.
Love it. Yeah, that wheel of life can be really powerful, especially with the clients and their coaches that you're speaking to. I've worked with a number of people, and I can picture one. I can see this was back in the days when I used to meet people in 3 dimensions and spend less time on the computer. So I can picture the meeting room and see him drawing out the wheel of life. And 3 things is where he was focusing on. He'd forgotten, even if you draw 8 segments, he'd forgotten about 8 areas that are possible in his life. And it was really interesting to watch him make the connection between how he was feeling in life, where he was feeling stressed and overwhelmed, and to go, oh, there's a lot of balance that I could be creating. I've been ignoring all of these things.
Yeah.
And actually, when I said to him, I said, look, let's create the wheel the way that you want it.
Yeah.
Put as many segments. We ended up with 14 different areas that were actually really important to him. And he'd carry it around with him as a structure to help him remember what was important, rather than getting caught just with what was in front of him. I thought that was really empowering to watch him come alive as he could start to take control of the life that he wanted.
Yeah. It's a really powerful tool. It seems very simple, but it's really powerful.
Actually, I think that's the theme of what I've heard you pointing to. There's a lot of things that are really powerful and really simple. And simple doesn't mean not powerful. Complex and big doesn't actually mean powerful or even good. And as you said, to pause for a minute, go for a 5-minute walk, or to stand outside for a few minutes, to stand up and get out from your desk, to go and get a glass of water. These are often incredibly and sometimes like stupidly simple things that we can do. They're also incredibly simple things that we can forget to do. And I think that's what you're pointing. Well, do what works because it works, not because it feels important or
it is
special.
That I remember doing a kind of analysis in a hospital, and where the nurses, that famous smoke break was for them, like I can just like go outside, have a smoke, and just quickly. It doesn't have to be smoking, but it is like for them, like I can step out, and it's important to be able to step out to be able to again reconnect. So
I love it. I love it. Hey, what's a tip that you can think of that, well, all of us face various forms of burnout and challenge. What's one thing that our listeners and us could be doing differently to start to reconnect with the energy or the passion?
So find the things what will give you energy. It could be a cup of coffee for someone. It could be going for a smoke break or a coffee break, or listening to a music, playing a game, and always connect with the positive energy, the people who will give you positive energy, the things which will give you positive energy, and surround yourself. Don't let anyone zap your energy.
I love it. It might seem like a silly question, but how might I go about finding the things that give me energy?
You will know it. How will you know it?
Well, actually, not how will I know it, because I have a perspective and I have an answer that I use with my clients. And I'm curious for yours. But like, how can people find, because often we get so busy in life, we get so burnt out, we forget to look. We get so focused and overwhelmed with what's not working. We forget to look at the things. We have coffee, we do a walk, we walk the dog, we do those things, but we're not paying attention. the energy.
True. I mean, it's just taking that one step back, isn't it? And looking into yourself and finding the things that makes you happy. When was the last time you smiled? When was the last time you had the energy? What were you doing? Who were you with at the moment? Those are all just reflecting back and thinking, when were you wanted to be where you were at that point? What were you doing? Were you reading a book? Were you watching a movie? Was it outside, indoor? And probably it's just looking inside will help you, give you the idea.
I love that answer. I think it's really rich. The key for me is to look. Often,
What's your tip, Steve?
well, actually, it's very similar to yours. You know, often we don't see or we can't find because we don't look. That's one of the things that I love about coaching is we get to ask questions. Sometimes the most obvious or simple question. My favorite is, you know, what successes have you had since we met last, to ask a client? And often it jars them, not because they don't know the answer, but because they haven't looked. And they're like, no, nothing's happening. Well, hang on, let's pause. You say nothing, not because it hasn't happened, but because you haven't looked. And if you don't look, you can't see. If you can't see, it doesn't exist. And so for people to find the things that give them energy, go and look, go and try things, go and do the things, even do exactly what happens normally in your day, but carry with you a question, carry with you the question of, what do I love about this?
Yeah.
And just having that question invites people to look. And I love questions because questions invite answers.
Yeah.
Oh, so what do I love about them? Actually, this coffee today is different. I'm really appreciating the bubbles on the cappuccino. Or, oh, there's something in this tea. What sort of tea is this? Oh, it's Earl Grey, not English breakfast. But just being willing to look allows us to see. And that to me is the biggest reminder for me as much as for my clients.
I think quickly on this is, for me, listening is what you find important. So what happens sometimes, you have a certain routine and you forget the importance of the routine, you just do it. It's something what I, for example, learned from Anthony Robbins, and I still do it sometimes. But certainly for men, when you shave, normally you always do the same. You always start on the same place and you finish on the same place. But just just starting on the other end makes your mind just go click, say, I getting out of it, and it's like you're bringing yourself more like, oh, I'm getting present on what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I'm doing differently. I need to be concentrated because maybe I have to cut myself because I'm normally start that way. And these are small things. It's like what Steve said, just about a cup of coffee. Instead of a cup of coffee, instead of taking it with the left hand, you take it with the right hand. Your mind just needs to react to this. So
great tips.
I love it. I love it. That's fun. Brilliant. Chitra, this has been a pleasure. Anything else that you'd like to share before we kind of bring things to a close for today?
Ask for help.
I love that. It's so true of coaches, I think, as well. It's funny how many coaches aren't working with their own coach, and yet we're encouraging others to do something that we're not yet willing to do. So I think there's wisdom there for all of us. So I've definitely appreciated and enjoyed our conversation. I've loved connecting with you and getting to know about the work that you're doing on the world. How can people connect with you if they want to learn more about you and the work that you're doing?
So I have got a website which is called Lifeline Academy, drchitrasankaran.com. And there is a calendar where you can book and talk to me at any time. I always hang out in the LinkedIn, and I also hang out sometime in the Facebook and Instagram.
Fantastic. And we'll put the links below the video on this. This is fantastic.
Thank you very much, Chitra, for your time and sharing your experience and you as a coach, and certainly in that really specific area where you move in. So it was really interesting, and thank you for sharing, and thank you for helping those health professionals to find their passion and energy again. I think so.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having me. It was really good to talk to you both.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
And it's a great website, what you have, and there are so much useful resources for both the coaches and anyone who wants to access it.
Thank you.